All right, so get ready because we're going to dive into something pretty thought-provoking, I think. When we think about talent and success and what it means to be brilliant,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to technology and research.
I'm intrigued already. What are we looking at today?
So you shared this piece by Elias Ali,
Yeah.
and it really challenges some assumptions.
Okay.
Ali's questioning why Bangladesh hasn't really become a powerhouse in technology and research,
Right.
even though they're known for having a lot of high-achieving students.
Interesting question.
Yeah, you'd think that a large pool of academically successful students
You would think so, Rob?
would then translate into these fields.
Exactly.
And that's where Ali flips the script.
Okay.
He says we've got the whole definition of brilliant wrong.
Okay, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what Ali's proposing.
Okay.
How does he define brilliance?
He argues that acing exams isn't true brilliance. It's more about discipline and hard work. To him, brilliance is about thinking differently.
Yeah.
Coming up with solutions and ideas that are totally outside the box.
So not just about absorbing knowledge,
Yeah.
but using it in unexpected,
Yeah.
innovative ways.
Exactly.
That makes sense. But how does he illustrate this idea?
Okay, so
Or-
one example he uses is actually pretty unsettling.
Okay.
He talks about a scammer
Okay.
who preyed on families who had lost loved ones in a ferry accident.
Oh, wow.
This scammer made up a whole elaborate scheme to exploit their grief.
That's awful. But I see where he's going with this.
Yeah,
He's saying that even though the scammer's actions were morally reprehensible,
right.
there's a certain kind of twisted intelligence at work there.
Yes.
This ability to understand and manipulate human psychology
Right?
for personal gain, even if it's for such a terrible purpose,
Yeah.
does require a sharp mind.
And Ellie isn't condoning what the scammer did, of course.
Of course not.
But he uses it to highlight the difference between traditional measures of intelligence, like exam scores,
Yes.
and what he considers true brilliance, that spark of creativity,
Yeah.
the ability to see opportunities and solve problems in ways
Yeah.
that most people wouldn't even think of.
It's a fascinating, if unsettling, way to illustrate the point.
Totally.
It begs the question, though, does brilliance without ethical boundaries even deserve to be called brilliant?
That's a good question.
Is there a point where ingenuity crosses a line and becomes something else entirely?
Yeah, he doesn't really explicitly answer that,
Okay.
but he does offer a counterexample to the scammer, a case where someone used their brilliance for good.
Okay.
He talks about Professor Muhammad Yunus and the founding of Grameen Bank.
Now, that's a name I recognize. Yunus won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work with microfinance.
Yes. And Ali points to Yunus as an example of true brilliance in action.
Okay.
Yunus saw a problem that women and the poor were often excluded from traditional banking systems.
Right.
And he devised a completely new solution, the idea of microloans. It was revolutionary at the time, and it's had a huge impact
It has.
on poverty reduction around the world.
It's a perfect example of what we were just talking about.
Right.
Yunus didn't just follow the existing rules of finance.
Right.
He looked at the situation from a completely different angle and found a solution that no one else had even imagined.
Exactly.
And it wasn't just about being clever. It was about using that cleverness to make a real difference in the world.
I think Ali seems to be making a distinction between intelligence,
Okay.
which might be about knowing the right answers, and brilliance, which is more about asking the right questions and coming up with solutions that challenge the status quo.
And if we follow that line of thinking, where does Ali say this type of brilliance is most evident in Bangladesh?
This is where things get even more interesting.
Right.
He argues that the truly brilliant minds in Bangladesh are not necessarily the high-achieving students.
Really? That's surprising. Who does he think are the brilliant ones then?
He says it's the politicians, the entrepreneurs,
Okay.
and even surprisingly, the corrupt and con artists.
Wow, that's a provocative statement.
It is.
So how does he justify that?
He argues that these are the people who are really shaping the system, for better or worse.
Yeah.
They're the ones thinking several steps ahead, anticipating problems and finding solutions.
Okay.
Even if those solutions are sometimes morally questionable
Right.
or self-serving.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Makes you think about all the different ways brilliance can show up.
It does.
Right.
It also raises a big question.
Yeah.
If these unconventional, outside-the-box thinkers exist in Bangladesh,
Yeah.
why aren't we seeing more of them making breakthroughs in technology and research?
Yeah, that's the core of Ali's argument.
Right.
He seems to be suggesting that something is preventing this kind of brilliance from flourishing in those fields.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he places a lot of the blame on the education system.
What does he say about the education system?
Oh.
Is he suggesting that it's not adequately preparing students?
He's even more critical than that.
Oh.
He calls the education system a well-planned method of destroying talent.
Wow. That's a pretty harsh assessment.
Yeah.
Does he elaborate on what he means by that?
He argues that the system is too focused on rote memorization and conformity. Students are rewarded for following the rules and spitting back information,
Right.
not for thinking independently or challenging the status quo.
So he's saying that the very structure of the education system is stifling the creativity and innovation that are essential for true brilliance to emerge.
Right.
It's interesting because we see many systems around the world that are similarly structured,
Yeah.
with standardized tests and a focus on memorization.
And Ollie's point is that this kind of system might be churning out highly disciplined, hardworking individuals,
Right.
but it's not necessarily fostering the kind of unconventional thinking that leads to true breakthroughs
Right.
in fields like technology and research.
He's suggesting that the system is inadvertently filtering out the very people
Yeah.
who have the potential to make the biggest impact. It's like you're looking for a needle in a haystack,
Yeah.
but instead of looking for a needle, we're actively removing all the needles from the haystack.
Right. And that leads to a situation where, as Ali puts it, if a truly brilliant person is stuck in this system,
Right.
their brilliance will be wasted.
It's a sobering thought. If our systems are designed to reward a certain type of intelligence, are we overlooking other forms of brilliance
Right.
that might be equally valuable?
And even if those brilliant minds manage to break free from the constraints of the education system,
Yeah.
Ali points out another major obstacle,
Okay.
the lack of investment in technology and research in Bangladesh.
He argues that even if these unconventional thinkers do emerge, they often lack the resources and support to truly flourish. Is that what he's getting at?
He gives a very specific example I found really striking.
Okay.
He talks about how Bangladesh is importing robots from other countries instead of investing in domestic robotics, education, and development.
That's a perfect illustration of his point.
Yeah.
Saying, we recognize the value of this technology, but we're not going to invest in the infrastructure and training needed to create it ourselves.
Right.
It's a missed opportunity,
Right.
to say the least.
He's basically saying that Bangladesh has the potential to be a leader in fields like robotics, but they're not creating the environment or the incentives for homegrown innovation.
Which brings us back to his central argument about brilliance.
Right.
He's not just talking about individual talent.
Right.
He's talking about the systems that either nurture or stifle that talent.
Yeah.
He seems to be saying that even if you have a population full of brilliant minds, it won't matter if the system isn't set up to support and cultivate that brilliance.
So taking all of this into account, what do you think is the main message Ali is trying to convey?
I think he's issuing a call to action.
Okay.
Not just to Bangladesh, but to any society that claims to value innovation and progress. He's challenging us to rethink our definition of brilliance.
Okay.
To look beyond traditional metrics like exam scores and degrees.
Yeah.
And to recognize that true brilliance can manifest in many different ways.
And he's also pointing out that recognizing brilliance is only the first step.
Right.
We also need to create systems that support and nurture these unconventional thinkers.
Yes.
To provide them with the resources and opportunities they need to turn their brilliant ideas into reality.
He seems to believe that brilliance is out there, but it's often hidden in plain sight, stifled by systems that prioritize conformity over creativity.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility to change those systems and unlock that potential.
That's a powerful message. It's not just about celebrating the brilliant minds. Right.
That have already achieved success.
Yeah.
It's about creating a world where more brilliant minds have the chance to shine.
Really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
Are we as a society doing enough to recognize and cultivate these unconventional forms of brilliance?
Yeah. I think Ali's point is that we need to be more open-minded about where we look for brilliance.
Okay.
It's not always going to be found in the top universities or in the boardrooms of big companies.
Yeah.
It might be lurking in unexpected places, like in the streets, in the slums, even in the minds of those who operate outside the law.
Yeah, it's a challenge to our assumptions about who and what we consider brilliant.
Totally.
Makes me think about all the potential that might be going untapped.
Right.
All the brilliant minds that might be out there just waiting for the right opportunity to emerge.
And that's where the systemic change comes in, right?
Right.
If we want to see more of these unconventional, brilliant minds making a positive impact, we need to create systems that nurture and support them, not stifle them.
We need to rethink our education systems, our funding priorities, our entire approach to innovation.
Yeah.
It's not just about identifying brilliance.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where brilliance can thrive.
And it's not just about technology and research either.
Right.
Ollie's argument applies to any field where creativity and innovation are valued. We need to be asking ourselves, are we creating spaces where diverse forms of brilliance can flourish? Or are we stuck in a rut, rewarding the same old types of intelligence and ignoring the potential that lies outside the box?
I think this deep dive has really opened my eyes to the different ways brilliance can manifest and the challenges those brilliant minds face in a world that doesn't always recognize or support their unique talents.
Exactly.
It's a call to action, not just for policymakers and educators, but for all of us to be more aware of the potential that surrounds us and to advocate for systems that allow that potential to flourish.
What's so thought-provoking about Ollie's perspective is that it doesn't offer any easy solutions.
Right.
He's raising questions, challenging assumptions, prompting us to think differently about a topic we might have thought we understood.
Right.
And in a world saturated with information, that's a truly valuable contribution.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
This deep dive has given us a lot to consider.
It has.
A lot to mull over.
For sure.
It's challenged us to expand our definition of brilliance, to question the systems that shape our world, and to consider how we can all play a part in fostering a more inclusive and supportive environment for the brilliant minds of tomorrow. So what are your thoughts on all of this? Where do you see examples of brilliance in the world around you? And what do you think needs to change so that more of these brilliant minds can contribute to making the world a better place? We'd love to hear your perspective. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.